Merhabalar, ben Doktor Burkay ADALIŞ, Meleklerin Payı. Bugün çok keyifli bir sohbet gerçekleştireceğiz. İskoçya'dan, viski endüstrisinden çok sevdiğim bir dostum İstanbul'da ve ilk defa geliyor İstanbul'a. Matthew Cordiner'la burada. Dewar Sons viskilerinin marka elçisi. Viski konusunda çok bilgili bir arkadaşım. İstanbul'a gelmesi, böyle bir sohbet ve tadım gerçekleştirmemiz benim için çok değerli. Craigleachie'yi bir viski markası olarak biliyor olabilirsiniz ama Craigleachie aslında İskoçya'da bir köyün adı ve Matthew oralı. Yani aslında neredeyse çocukluğundan beri viski endüstrisinin içinde olan bir kişi. Fıçı yapımından buralara kadar gelmiş. Şu anda da farklı markalarla kariyerine devam eden bir arkadaşım. Hey Matthew, finally in Istanbul, great to see you.
It is my pleasure and always great to see you, my friend.
Thank you. When was the last time we saw each other? I believe it was Whisky Show London,
I was thinking
right?
about this, yeah. It was last year at the Whisky Show London.
Whisky
We had a
Show
good
London.
catch up, shared a few nice whiskies together
Exactly,
as well.
yeah, I distinctly remember the whiskies because you had a great lineup with all the brands, and I spent some maybe half an hour, maybe an hour at your stand. It was good.
It's never enough time, is it? It's never enough time. But great we get some time together today.
Exactly. So it's your first time in Istanbul, yeah?
First time in Istanbul, and I can already say it will not be my last time. I'm leaving tomorrow, but I'm already excited to come back in future.
You're always welcome, yeah. It's been a busy period for me, so I'm really happy that now you're here. And in January, things go a little bit slower. But
that's it.
Yeah, at the end of the year, it was a bit busy.
But a busy time for you as well. I know since I last saw you, you've had a book's come out already.
Yeah. In December, I published my 5th book. It's the Whiskey Enthusiast's Handbook. So I wrote it. It's my 5th book, and the others were more detailed. But this one, I wanted to give for young people who start whiskey culture, like what I did 35 years ago when I was a university student, starting with a manual. So it's like Whiskey 101 kind of thing with no photos, but just plain information about how to produce whiskey, where to go in Scotland or other countries where they produce whiskey. So, and it's going well. We just went into second print in 2 months, in 1 month.
Of course, we know each other, and I know how you got started. But for those people watching, could you tell us a little bit about your journey in whiskey?
Sure. I started actually drinking whiskey, enjoying whiskey when I was a university student. Actually, I was a quite pretentious guy, and everybody was drinking, colorful cocktails, and I was the one drinking whiskey at a school party at the age of 18, 19, 20, saying, I'm a sophisticated guy, so I drink whiskey. You drink cocktails, I drink whiskey. But, it was just like a start with simpler brands, introductory brands, I would say. Then over the years I traveled a lot because I'm a medical doctor and I worked in pharma business, so I was traveling a lot. I was responsible for Europe at one point, Middle East, Africa at one point, so my life was travels, and during the travels, you always get to taste different stuff, and we visit many duty-free and travel retail, and it's always nice. And I started collecting whiskies, but back in 2013 I started my blog. It's the first whiskey blog in Turkey, meleklerinpayi.store. Meleklerin Payı means Angel's Share, by the way.
Oh, wow.
That was the year when Ken Loach released the movie Angel's Share.
Of course, a great link.
I started like that, and I started blogging actually, and back then I didn't know anything about whiskey. It's like maybe 1% of my knowledge now, but over the years I tasted thousands of whiskey. I visited Scotland.
I was going to say, you've had quite a few trips to Scotland since then, right?
Exactly, yeah. That led to my 3rd book, also Malt'ın Peşinde. It means chasing the malt. It's like a Scotland memoir, all my travels. It's the first book on Scotland in Turkish language, so it's not just whiskey, but where to go, how to. It's a beautiful country. You just visit, kind of like a travel guide, but the rest of it is 136. 150 distilleries, all technical details and everything.
I'm a little bit biased, but I agree. It's quite a nice country, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're very lucky to be Scottish. Yeah, but you don't have a very heavy Scottish accent. Yeah.
So when I started my journey as an ambassador, and I was with Chivas Brothers, of course, that's I think first met them for a long time. I moved from my village, my home in Speyside of Craigleachie, which is a village of less than 600 people, to South Beach, Miami. So I was out in the United States for an ambassador, and when I landed there, nobody knew what I was saying. So I've learned I had to change how I talk just a little bit more. But I'm back, I speak a little bit quicker and a little bit more Scottish when I'm at home with my family.
Yeah, because sometimes on Instagram, in social media, we see Scottish dialect, and it's very difficult to understand kind of thing. But your English is very easy to understand.
Thank you very much. I mean, Glasgow. I still don't understand what people from Glasgow are saying.
Glasgow, Aberdeen,
it's a very hard accent.
Those accents.
Yeah, and the Doric, right? The northeast as well.
It's
of course.
Totally different. You're great, and I'm sure everybody will understand. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So your journey started actually from the beginning when you were a childhood kind of thing because of Cregelecki. By the way, for people who don't know, who never had the chance to go there, it's like in the center of Speyside. Speyside is the capital of whiskey, and Cregelecki is just in the center. So it's like being born into whiskey kind of thing. And I believe you started back at school after school as a cooper, and you also did some.
So it was on our very first ever school trip. So when you join Cregelecki Primary School, the first thing you do is you visit the cooperage in the local village, and you learn how to make cask. So I never quite became a cooper, but there is a photograph of me. It was the old front cover for the cooperage leaflet. Was me as a 5-year-old boy learning how to make my first cask. So I'm just 36. I know I look quite young. I've had a shave as well, but I've been learning about whiskey, as you say, for quite a long time. Officially now, almost 18 years in the Scotch whisky industry. So started as a tour guide at Glenlivet. A long journey with Chivas Brothers, again working for a little time at Adalığ Distillery and Strathyla Distillery in the tour guide team. Then I worked on the sort of graduate program, so I got 3 years of travel, working in the UK, working in the US, and working in South Africa. And then I was a little bit homesick. I wanted to get home. I'd had my girlfriend from university, now my wife.
Perfect.
So the plan was always to get home. And a job came up where I got to represent Cregelecki. So I was very sorry to leave Chivas Brothers. I had a fantastic, almost 9 years with them. But home was calling. So I saw that job with Cregelecki, and of course Aberfeldy, Royal Bracla, Altmore, and Macduff. And I always loved Aberfeldy as a distillery to visit. Cregelecki was home, and always a big fan of Royal Bracla as well.
Great story, and I'm now jealous about primary school, because in primary school we just
different for you.
We carve potatoes and make stars or stuff like this. They never take us to a distillery.
Different paths in our journey, but here we are together, sitting down to enjoy some whiskey today, right? So
definitely,
we both made it here in different ways.
I love that you started your story with back when you're like 5-6 years old, visiting a cooperage, because over time. As I read about whiskey, as I visit distilleries, as I visit cooperages, and I see also from my followers, my readers, people understand casks is everything. It's like, the epitome of whiskey culture, and you have to be very knowledgeable on cask use, different casks, the effect of, casks, different wood on whiskey. Actually, I want to, have your opinion about the casks, I'm sure, and you're very knowledgeable on casks. So, and Royal Bracla especially is specialized in sherry casks and interesting sherry finishes and maturation. So I'd like to hear about that.
As you say, for us, we are really pursuing mastery, I think, in the art of sherry cask finishing with Royal Bracla. And so many whiskey brands talk about, they're masters in sherry, and then all you see is Oloroso, and it's kind of one sherry. Stephanie McLeod, who of course is our multi-award winning malt master, 6 times winner of Master Blender of the Year at the International Whisky Competition. So personally, I think she's the best whiskey maker in the world, but a few other people agree with me, with those amazing accolades.
She's amazing.
And she's really always said, that the style of whiskey they're making at Royal Bracla Distillery, it's this lovely, sort of summery, fresh, lovely, elegant character. But it has this lovely clean acidity. It's very good at cutting through kind of bigger, heavier cask finishes. And when we started with, under the Dewar Sons name with Bacardi, we launched a range in 2014 under the Last Great Malts, where we just focused on Oloroso. Everything was at 40%, it was just Oloroso. And Stephanie said, Royal Bracla can do so much more. So it was a few years of experimentation, and then we launched the range, of course, which we now have in 2020. And now we really do explore, different sherry casks. So with the 12, that's what we have in the glass here. You see that lovely Oloroso. You move to the 18, you see the influence of the Palo Cortado, and then you move to the 21, and the 21 for me is a masterclass in sherry in one glass. You have a combination of different finishing casks, Oloroso, Palo Cortado, PX coming together. I always say that one's like a sherry roller coaster on the palate. You know, you start off, you get that lovely influence of the Oloroso, that kind of warming cinnamon spice. You drop down into this little bit of citrus coming through from the Palo Cortado, and then it pulls up just a little bit at the end again. You have that wonderful kind of raisined richness coming from the PX. So, you know, really across the range, it's a bit of a journey. We've had some limited editions as well, where we've looked at other, you know, sherries, Fino, Amontillado. So we really are exploring sherry. I know, you know, you're talking about me and casks. You have done so much work as well, I think, for improving the profile of casks and kind of the understanding here in Turkey. Even just sherry, you've had a little bit of a hurdle even with that. So can you tell us a little about Can you tell us a little about that challenge which you've had?
Actually, Turkish whiskey enthusiast. Now that I smell, actually, I need to take a sip. I love it. That's one of my favorites. That's a great subject because, first of all, actually, we need to explain people that, you know, whiskey is not just you produce it and then just bottle it. It's not like other drinks. You still need to work on it for 12, 18, 21 years, starting from, you know, choosing the cask, choosing even the tree at first, you know, which oak you're going to use. So in that sense, actually, Stephanie and those masters, you know, I love them because it's almost like predicting what's going to happen in 21 years. You know, it's like being like a wizard or something.
Yeah, crystal ball, right?
Yeah, like a crystal ball thing. You know, of course, you know your character of whiskey, but you have to know the wood very well, so you can imagine what's going to come out. A challenge for us is actually all over Europe. That's a similar case. We don't have sherry in Turkey. I mean, people don't know about sherries. I mean, when I talk about sherry, fortified wine or something like that, we are a wine country, by the way. You know, we have great wines in Anatolia. I'm sure you had some chances to taste them. But fortified wine, and you know, it's not very well known. Sherry. And the word sherry is similar to cherry. So sometimes people think cherry is a tree, you know, in Turkish we call it kiraz. So I say it's not kiraz oak, it's not the cherry oak, it's the sherry, the drink. You know, the seasoned casks are used because you cannot put an aroma in the whiskey. So this is quite some new information for many people. It starts with that information, then I have to tell people what Fino is, what Oloroso is, what Amontillado is. It's a bit of a challenge because if you just give, I have blog posts about it, I wrote it in my books, but as long as, I mean, until you taste them or just smell them, you don't understand the differences. So, but I can say the Turkish whiskey enthusiasts are very familiar with PX and Oloroso because many other brands also use those. For me, Royal Burak'la 18 with the Palo Cortado is a very interesting example because it's like, you know, we don't have Palo Cortado, a lot of Palo Cortado around. The others, I can say there are similar versions in different brands, but Palo Cortado is like a unique kind of whiskey.
It really is that outlier, and I remember I was lucky enough to get samples before it was officially bottled. I didn't know what they were, and I got these 3 samples, and I'm looking at this really light-coloured, unusual sample, smelling and saying, okay, what have we got here? This is something super interesting. And then a discussion with Stephanie later, and she says, you know, this is Palo Cortado. So just like you're saying, you know, there's been a lot we've seen in Oloroso, there's been a lot with PX, but really highlighting this unusual sherry cask. And of course, one of the rarest types of sherry you will find from Spain, and I think very rarely used in whiskey. There's been a few maybe limited editions, but I can't really think of another core range product where you've had this consistency.
No, actually I checked for it. Yeah, I couldn't find it.
I'm glad someone checked there. That's a good one there.
You know, my very good friend Jenner also, we had some tastings, and after that I also worked on Royal Burak'la. Of course, for my book, I worked on Royal Burak'la, the distillery, you know, how many stills and, you know, this history. I love the history actually. So I'm a history buff myself. One of my next books will be on whiskey and drink spirits history. Amazing. Charlie McLean is, he's my
I look forward to reading
master.
It already.
I love Charlie. So, you know, he gave me how can I say, to push the inspiration to work on history. That's why I love Royal Burak'la. And after that, I made a research, and I couldn't find other core range products with Palo Cortados. You know, it's in that sense, Royal Burak'la is unique, I believe. Royal Burak'la, actually, that's also a nice info for my followers, for readers, because I believe to be successful in the whiskey world, you have to catch people from I don't want to say magazine or pop kind of
Okay.
thing, but you need to give them little bits of interesting information. And I believe Royal Brackley is the first whiskey to be royal.
It was the first Royal Scotch whisky. So we were founded in 1812, making us one of the oldest legally founded distilleries still in operation today. There were other distilleries legally founded before us, but very few remain in Scotland now. And it was Captain William Fraser. He was a local man to Brackla. It's this tiny little place in Scotland. And he grew up on the farm at Brackla, grew up as a barley farmer. He said, I don't only want to grow barley, I want to turn this into something more profitable in the form of whiskey. But this is someone who built a legal distillery in 1812. As you well know as a history buff, we really didn't see this big change until 1823, the new change in Excise Act. Our founder was one of the real campaigners for that need for a change in Scotch whisky to bring the cost of that licence down and the size of stills you needed down as well. But because he found it so difficult to sell his whisky locally, he said, I cannot sell my whisky within 120 miles of the distillery. He made the decision to send it further down the country, down to Dundee and to Edinburgh and all the way down to London. And down in London, it found a very famous drinker, a man known as the Sailor King, of course, King William IV.
Fourth, right? Yeah.
King William IV. And he said, this tastes like it comes from the heavens. This is the drink divine. And he said, from this day forth, this should be known as the King's Own Whisky. And in 1833, he gave us the first royal warrant in Scotch whisky with the right to use the word royal in our name. So since then, of course, there's only been 3 royal distilleries with royal in their title. Royal Lochnagar, of course, and Glen Uri Royal.
Glen Uri Royal, but
people
it's shut
always
down.
Forget that one as well.
But
most importantly though, we were the first to say Royal Brackla, the King's Own Whisky in 1833.
1833, wow. And then I believe Queen Victoria also renewed that that license or
later on, so the business would pass on to William's son Robert, and again the license was renewed then as well. So we've had that long-standing relationship, which has been fantastic.
That part actually excites me a lot because Queen Victoria, she goes up to Scotland and she loves Scotland. I mean, it changes actually the history of Scotland.
It changed Scotland. I think thanks to Victoria, with Balmoral Castle, there was something known as Balmoralism. It was this idea that became very fashionable to come up to the Highlands of Scotland.
Yes.
My hometown of Craigellachie would not be what it is today if it hadn't been for this Balmoralism. One of the founders of Craigellachie was Alexander Edward. He realised, he founded not only the distillery, but he realised people were coming from all over Scotland now to learn about whisky, to go fishing on our rivers, to go shooting on our estates. So he actually built the Craigellachie Hotel with this crossing point in the railway line and some of the large luxury manor houses around Speyside. So, Speyside really was shaped and thanks to that popularity with Queen Victoria, this Balmoralism bringing people to Scotland. So yeah, a really important part of history and our history in Speyside as well.
That's a great bit of information actually, because I'm starting as a contributing editor to Travel and Leisure in Turkey.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I wrote my first piece yesterday, and I sent it to my editor. And actually, I'm mentioning about Craigellachie Hotel. It's the heart of space. It's like about where to go in Scotland, kind of.
I'm a little biased, but that's a good place to start.
But now, a little bit more history to Craigellachie Hotel and the surrounding. I love that area.
Brilliant.
The bridge, the hotel, the bars around, this is... I do tours also, I don't know if we had the time to discuss, but every year I organize 4 Scotland tours with 12 people, so very, boutique tours and very intimate tours, and we visit like 4 or 5 distilleries, and we have great dinners in Craigellachie Hotel, or, taste different whiskeys, so it's quite fun. The next one will be in April. I'm looking forward to that because I don't have any Scotland trips before that, and I miss Scotland.
Oh well, haste you back, as we say in
haste
Scotland.
You back,
we look forward to you coming back as well.
Haste you back, yeah. I have actually I have a mug that says that. Says that.
Something interesting I'd love to circle back on as well. You talked about maybe the lack of understanding in sherry casks. In Turkey. It's not just Turkey. I think where this is a problem. I think especially even in Scotland. There's so many master classes that I host, and people talk about sherry cask and say it's not a real sherry cask, it's just a seasoned sherry cask. And I say, well, no, wait a minute, that is a real sherry cask. And if you look back at the history, that relationship Scotland has with sherry, there's been since the sort of 17th century, sherry was at real popularity, but probably all the way back to the 15th century, we've had records of sherry coming into the country. And what we were using as sherry casks in Scotland were these transportation casks, right? And I think this is where a lot of people misunderstand. It's not this 100-plus-year-old cask, used in a Solera system, in a bodega. That would be inert. We wouldn't offer any new flavour. We're looking for an active cask for our finishing. So for a long time, what would happen is they wouldn't bottle sherry in Spain. It would be sent over in these new wooden casks, shipped over to Scotland. Those casks at some point, would maybe sit in a warehouse, then be emptied and bottled, and then you'd have these empty transportation sherry casks. New active oak that's had sherry sitting in it for several weeks, months, maybe a year or so, and then that was what we would be filling our whiskey into. Now in the 1980s, so relatively recently, of course the rules on sherry changed, and suddenly for their denomination of origin to be classified as sherry, you had to start bottling in Spain. So us Scots looked at this and said, okay, we don't have these transportation casks anymore, what are we going to do? So we start to see Scotch whisky producers working with the sherry industry to say, can you remake us essentially this transportation cask? So it is this new oak, often new American oak. You're putting the sherry into these casks, you're seasoning it for over a year usually, and then we're emptying that out, and that's what we're getting brought across to Scotland. So we don't want this 100-plus-year-old inactive cask from a bodega. What we want are these, this recreation of this transportation cask, a lovely active cask. We're going to get that influence from the sherry, but also get that influence from this lovely active wood as well. So there's so much, I think, confusion around that. I know you've been a great person at kind of debunking this myth as well.
No, I'm really glad you talked about this. Sometimes I tend not to speak about this because it's like advanced.
Yeah, it's complicated,
it's
right?
Complicated.
It's complicated.
For example, a beginner. So I teach about this in my cask trainings. I mean, I have a training series every month, 1 or 2, and sometimes I talk about peated whiskeys. Sometimes I say just this is the whole thing is casks. I choose, for example, Royal Bracla for Palo Cortado, some other for Oloroso, PX. Nowadays we see tequila casks or different cask finishes, just maybe a gimmicky thing, but it's still a great way to talk about different casks. And in those trainings I say seasoning, what is that, first fill, second fill, refill,
sure.
because it's sometimes it's a bit difficult for people to get their heads into, but that's a very important topic. But at the end of the day, I believe I was successful. Of course, the companies are doing a great job in Turkey, and nowadays, Turkey is one of the biggest whiskey countries in the world. I'm really, glad about that.
So this is my first trip here, and I was astonished. I've hosted a lot of master classes since I've been here, some lovely dinner events. I was blown away by the enthusiasm, the passion and the knowledge people had for Scotch whisky here in Turkey. So as I say, I'm coming back as soon as possible.
Definitely.
I'll see you in Scotland, you'll see me in Turkey again.
Yeah, back in 2013 I started my whiskey club. It was the first whiskey club that gathers every month over a theme, like Irish whiskies, Scotch whiskies, peated whiskies, blah blah, or world whiskies. Back then we just had 50 expressions in Turkey. 2013, it's not like 12 years, 14 years ago, 14 years ago. There was just one club. They were also gathering, from time to time and drinking different whiskies, but they were never releasing their tasting notes and everything. After I started my first whiskey club, over the time I started giving trainings, and in every city we started to see, whiskey clubs coming up, and nowadays we have like 20, 30 whiskey clubs that regularly meeting and choosing whiskies over different themes. Back then we had to bring whiskies from Scotland from our travels, but nowadays we have maybe 500-600 different
That's
labels.
such a huge change.
And last year Scotch Whisky Association for the first time listed us as in the top 10 countries.
Wow.
We are now, I believe, number 8 in liters in value, and number 7 in liters.
Wow.
And very interesting, I don't know if you know that, but we are still waiting for the December data from the Ministry of Agriculture. With that, we'll be able to say that people drink more whiskey than rakı, our national drink, in Turkey. So back in July, the market share of whiskey surpassed rakı for the first time. I mean, there are several reasons. It's not like people don't like rakı. Of course, it's our national drink, and my fourth book is actually on rakı. So I'm not just working on whiskey now. I'm working on distilled spirits. But you know, there's this great interest on whiskey, and that put Turkey in one of the top 10 countries, I'm sure. And there's a great interest for different malts, and everybody is asking for the next whiskey. So what's coming up for your brands in general? You know, Royal Bracla. I'm sure you're working on some limited.
There's always, I think, that the busiest team at our Dewar Sons in Glasgow is the new product development team. Any cask you can think of, we are probably running some sort of experiment with it across our wonderful 5 distilleries. And with Royal Bracla, of course, we want to continue this exploration of sherry. You don't have this yet in Turkey, but I brought with me just a little special sample.
Yes.
So if you'd like to try just a little whiskey, I don't think you've tried this one yet. So I have the wonderful Royal Bracla 25. Would you like to try a little?
Oh, of course, yeah, of course.
Let's pour one now.
If we have that would be great. Yeah.
There we go. So, as I say, I managed to take with me a little special sample for you. Not released in Turkey here yet. I hope we'll see it in future. We have a 12, of course, in the range with Oloroso as the finish. We have 18 with the Palo Cortado. The 21, we see Oloroso, Palo Cortado, and PX together.
3 sherry, yeah.
Here we're going just to PX. We've got this lovely, big, rich raisin finish. Again, 46% ABV, all natural colour,
the colour.
non-chill filtered. So would you like a try?
Yeah, of course.
Let's have a little taste.
Yeah, I always love to try new ones, and I haven't tasted 25 yet.
Amazing. So a little treat for you.
Oh wow, that's good.
I love the cork in this as well. Always a good sign.
Yeah.
I'll let you, it's a good...
And wow, that's a heavy one.
It's a good weight, you know, it's got to be whiskey fit for a king or a queen, you know.
So that's great.
It's got to work.
Yeah.
There we go, a little taste.
You know, sometimes people don't appreciate, the value of a good cork stopper because, sometimes we see even good whiskeys, it doesn't,
make sure that
well.
Seals there,
it seals well, but it looks perfect. Yeah, wow.
So I love, again, not only the beautiful cork, but of course, please. On the bottle there, you see our wonderful Royal Bracla crest.
The crest,
and there is so much rich storytelling in there. The
cauldron,
only bit of colour, the cauldron,
yeah.
The only bit of colour, of course, you see in that, the witch's cauldron, the damn red spot, and the hovering dagger and crown, of course, references to Shakespeare's Macbeth.
Yeah.
And the estate that we are built on is the Cawdor estate. Of course, this ancient Scottish estate, which was this fictional setting for the play Macbeth. And Macbeth was to become the Thane of Cawdor. This is a real title, so again, that kind of, the ruler of Cawdor. Today it's a man called Colin Campbell. I think it's the 25th Thane of Cawdor. That castle was built in 1454. And from then to this day, it's been one family. His family have lived in that castle for generations. So we live in this beautiful ancient landscape for Royal Bracla. So the castles are neighbours, just up the road.
So that explains the castles, the barley, the cauldron. Everything is in that crest. Yeah, it's perfect.
It. Right at the heart, though, and the most important, we have that crown, and of course, it looks like a barrel end, a cask end. And coming from that, you have the barley growing, representing, of course, Scotch whisky, and interwoven around the Scotch whisky is the grapevine. Again, grapes representing sherry. So for us, Royal Bracla would not be the Royal Bracla we know and love today if it hadn't been for that influence of sherry. The two are partners, going hand in hand together.
Also the water element, we see the waves. Yeah.
The water, so we take our cooling water for the distillery from the Cawdor burn. So that flows past, down from the castle. Above it, you'll see a little bird. When we were creating this beautiful crest for Royal Bracla, speaking to the team at the distillery, we said, is there anything you would want on the bottle? And they said, can you get the ducks on? If you ever come to visit Bracla, hopefully we'll get you there soon. That beautiful cooling pond is always covered in ducks. They're the happiest ducks in Scotland. It's almost like their own little jacuzzi. The water's kept warm. And then also alongside that, every time the barley lorry pulls away, there's always a little bit of barley left for them to enjoy. So say some of the happiest ducks in Scotland, but our still team love it. So hence we had to get the little duck on the logo there. But most importantly, again, right at the top, the first Royal Scotch whisky. again with that 1833 date, and you'll see the date 1812, of course, that founding date
the founding
for
date,
Royal
right?
Brackla
The
Distillery.
12 on, yeah.
So much storytelling.
the
That word
bottom down,
endeavour, you know, on there as well. William Fraser was a military man. He found the first few years very difficult because of all that illicit distillation, which, you know, he was trying to change and, you know, help legalise whiskey in Scotland, make it a bit easier for these illicit distillers. But he endeavoured, he persevered, so that's why that kind of military endeavour is on the bottle. Then, of course, in big proud writing, Royal Brackla. When we were founded, we were just Brackla, but of course, thanks to King William IV, becoming Royal Brackla for the first time. And right at the bottom, we are a Highland single malt whisky. We're just outside of Speyside, but as I say, we are very much.
You're actually at the
Highland
border,
single
you know,
malt.
what do you call it?
We are
Sireland,
so
yeah.
close to technically what is classified
It's
as
like, it's very
Speyside.
close to Inverness, right? Like 12,
Yeah, so
12
we'd be
15 miles?
20 minutes drive,
20
I think, from
minutes
Inverness.
drive, yeah.
Our closest town is Nairn, so that kind of seaport of Nairn is again maybe a 10-minute drive for us as well. So it's thanks to that seaport, you know, we're able to ship a lot of our whiskey down across the country as well. So, you know, a really intricate crest, lots of storytelling there, and hopefully, you know, anybody watching this now knows how to tell the story of Royal Brackla when they have that bottle in their hand.
Yeah, the bottle explains everything.
Well, I think we need to share a
Yeah,
toast.
exactly.
You know, I still can't believe that statistic. You know, you're saying now in Turkey now, Scotch whisky becoming the dominant drink of choice. So I think that deserves a toast. Thank you for all your hard work you've done in Scotch whisky and raising that profile here in Turkey. So great to see you, my friend.
Thank you. Slanjava.
Cheers.
Thank you.
What do you think to this one?
Oh, great depth. Very sweet.
That PX cask, right? It can be such a dominant cask, but I think that lovely, clean, fresh style of Royal Brackla, it still shines through. Initial maturation here, we are using a combination of ex-bourbon casks, so predominantly ex-bourbon, you know, refill casks there, so you don't lose that distillery character. And finishing for that 6 months in the PX. But again, look at that natural colour. It is such a beautiful dark bottle.
Like licorice, figs, dry figs. It's a thing for Turkey actually. We are one of the biggest fig exporters in the world.
Wow.
Dry figs is, everybody knows how figs and dry figs actually taste, so that's also a great descriptor for you know, my readers.
This is
followers.
it in Scotland. We have our own local tasting notes, but it's always great to see what, you know, actually resonates, what people know this as. Because I could say this is one thing and you as another, but again, it's just different palates, right? Different kind of learned vocabulary.
Yeah, that's a cultural thing. You know,
cultures.
sometimes our you know, aroma, memory, and how we felt during our childhood. So
I know for me, I say with, you know, rich sherried whiskey, I say Christmas cake. But in so many other countries, they're like, what's this Christmas cake? You know, for me, it's that really kind of raisin dried fruit cake. But yeah, so that's prunes.
This is exactly what I wrote, you know, in my blog several times. People said, you know, there are aroma wheels in English. I said, yeah, of course there are aroma wheels. And in my times, in the beginning, 2013-14, I wrote Noel keki, which means Christmas cake.
Okay.
Then I realized, of course, I know what a Christmas cake is because I travel a lot, but many people don't have an idea. Then I said, no, I'm not going to translate the aroma wheel to Turkish. I'm going to create one.
Wow.
And for that, I need to taste several whiskeys. And for my first book, after tasting like 2,000 whiskeys, I have several notebooks at home. I made a word cloud and found out, and the one that people resonate much is the vanilla cacao cake of my mom.
Okay.
Because every mom in Turkey does that vanilla cacao cake, you know, the wavy kind of thing. It's a childhood thing. Everybody knows, you know, the smell very well. So
I've not tried this yet, so I know this is something I must try now.
It's like with you can put raisins, but you know, that kind of cakey flavor. But it's mostly, you know, dried fruits. It's very prominent. But there's also a little salinity. That's very interesting. Like salted nuts. And I've been speaking for like maybe 2 minutes, and I still have it. So that's a long finish. that's.
Well, you've taught me something new today. Well, many new things today actually as well. So always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
You too.
Great to see you. I hope we get to share some more time together soon. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And once again, Slanjava.
Slanjava. Thank you.